Hare Krishna, dear devotees. A warm welcome to ISKCON Naperville. It's so wonderful to see so many of you. When Chaitanya Kishore Prabhu asked me, can we have this program? I said, Prabhu, this is a long weekend. I don't know if we can have 15-20 people. So it's so amazing, and I think it's just, I don't know what to say, just attracting devotees' hearts to be here in your presence and hear from you, Prabhu. This is so amazing. And Shri Radha Shyam Sundar Mercy for all of us to have this opportunity. I'm so grateful. So let's very happily and gratefully welcome His Grace Shubha Vilasa Prabhu on behalf of our temple president, Her Grace Premananda Mataji. She wanted to be here, but she couldn't. So on behalf of her and Srila Prabhupada, we are very happy and honored to have Prabhu here. So just a short bio probably, but it's a little long, but probably doesn't sum up what Prabhu is. Dr. Shubha Vilasa Prabhu studied patent law after completing his engineering degree. But finally, he chose the path of a spiritual seeker. He has received his PhD degree just last month. Hari Bol. He wrote his thesis on leadership and managerial effectiveness from Valmiki Ramayana. Wow. In his 11 years of monkhood, associated with Shri Radha Gopinath Temple, ISKCON Chowpatty, Mumbai, he has served in various leadership roles in congregational development as well as management. He heads ISKCON Goa, where the congregation has been on a steady growth curve under Prabhu's leadership. Prabhu also heads Tulsi Books, a publishing house for spiritual books, pioneer of Gita Champions League, now an international competition to promote Gita learning in schools. Prabhu considers the whole world his home and works with individuals, youth, corporates, institutes, and governments around the world through exclusive workshops, seminars, training modules, and learning retreats. The focus of his work is the application of scriptural wisdom in day-to-day living, addressing the needs of everyone through thought-provoking seminars. Prabhu has delivered more than 6,000 talks, inspiring more than 6 million people across 20 countries in the last 10 years. He is a visiting faculty at several premier business management schools in India, including the Indian Institute of Management, IIM, and Narsi Monzi Institute of Management Studies, Mumbai. He has been a guest speaker at the prestigious Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT Boston, Dresden International University, Germany, WITS, Johannesburg, and several centers of Indian Institute of Technology in India. He is an advisory board of MIT Pune's online education system. Amongst corporates, Prabhu has spoken at Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Samsung at their world headquarters in USA. As an author, writing books is an extension of Prabhu's deep sense of responsibility towards society. He began with his monumental task of writing a series of books on Ramayana. Since then, Prabhu has written bestsellers in succession on a wide range of subjects. Apart from his book series, Ramayana, The Game of Life, he has also authored the bestseller Open-Eyed Meditations, Magic of Friendships, and many illustrated books for children. A total of about 30 books and many more in the pipeline. Thank you so much, Prabhu. We are very grateful and honored again to have this opportunity to hear from you. So today's topic will be invisible leadership. Let's welcome Prabhu with a very loud Hari Bol. If you could kindly, Mataji, please come to this side and Prabhu.
Can I make it simple? I can just sit here. Camera.
Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Shama Sundar Radha Shama Sundar Radhe Jai Jai Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Nittai Gaura Haribo 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 Nittai Gaura Haribo Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतः पदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Very happy and grateful to be here amidst all of you all at ISKCON of Naperville, sharing some thoughts on invisible leadership. So whenever, anywhere this topic invisible leadership is given, first of all, I need to explain what it means. A lot of people don't even understand what the topic means. So here is first the understanding of it. Of course, I'm hardly spoken on leadership in an ISKCON Sunday feast program, or rather a Saturday program, whatever. I've mostly spoken about leadership in corporates and, B schools and things like that. Speaking on leadership in an ISKCON program is something strange and new, with kids around and things like that. So I'm going to try to make it relevant and as pertinent as possible to this audience. So I'll kind of tone it down to the level at which I'm speaking. To help you understand what invisible leadership is, let me tell you all a story from the Ramayana. When the monkey army, the Vanar Sena, they reached the shore of the Indian Ocean, and they got to know that Sita is on the other side of the ocean. There's an 800-mile ocean to cross. All of them are confused who's going to do it. And different Vanaras, they started talking about their capacity. Somebody said, I can do 10 miles. Somebody said, I can do 20 miles. Somebody said, I can do 30 miles. Somebody said, I can do 40 miles. And somebody said, I can do 100 miles. Somebody said 200. Somebody said 500. And then Angad, one of them, he said, I can do 800 miles. So then after Angad said, I can do 800 miles, everybody thought, we are done. He's going to do it. But then Angad said, but I'm not sure if I can come back. What's the point in having a one-way ticket to Lanka, right? So then everybody was again confused who's actually going to do it. Among them was one of them who was their leader. He understood Angad's problem. Angad's problem was not energy, not ability. Why he's saying I can't come back? Angad's problem was something else only. That Jambavan understood. Jambavan is the oldest among them. He's the leader among them. He's the most experienced. So Angad didn't tell anyone why he can't come back. Jambavan understood it. The problem with Angad was that he was sure of going there, but after reaching Lanka, Lanka is a golden city, right? It's a beautiful golden city. Something like Las Vegas here. So he was not sure, if I reach Lanka, if I get attracted to the city of Lanka, what if I don't feel like coming back? That was Angad's problem. So he said, I'm sure I can go, but I'm not sure if I can come back. It's like a lot of people go to Las Vegas, but not everyone comes back. I'm talking about allegorically. So when they were all sad, Jambavan started looking at all of them and analyzing them and their capacity, strengths and weaknesses. And he saw that one of them had not spoken, and that was Hanuman. So Jambavan went and sat next to Hanuman, and he began to remind Hanuman of his powers. And as Jambavan was reminding Hanuman of his powers, Hanuman started becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. And from that point onwards in the Ramayana, you will see the entire Ramayana, the hero of the Ramayana is Hanumanji. Practically in every page, it's about Hanuman only. But from that point, if you read Ramayana, how many times is Jambavan's name mentioned? Hardly a few times. So from the world's point of view, Hanuman is a hero. But from Hanuman's point of view, Jambavan is a hero. Because Jambavan is the one who made him the hero. So Jambavan is called an invisible leader. Invisible leaders are those who push others ahead and they remain invisible behind. Visible leaders are those who push themselves ahead and push everybody else behind. The world has seen a lot of visible leaders, isn't it? What really the world needs is some invisible leaders. The most important things in life, which are life sustaining, are actually invisible. Can you see oxygen? You can't. It's invisible. But it is so important. So the role of Jambavan in the Ramayana is so crucially important. In fact, Jambavan said, when I was young, I could have crossed the ocean. Forget the ocean, I could have crossed the universe 21 times. When Vamanadev extended his feet, Jambavan actually went around the feet of Vamanadev 21 times. He was so powerful. But he said, now I'm old, I can't do it. And he inspired Hanuman to do it. And Hanuman became the hero of the Ramayana, isn't it? But interestingly, if you actually extend the story further and see what was Hanuman's role in the Mahabharata. What was Hanuman doing in the Mahabharata? He was sitting on the flag of Arjun, right? And what was he doing sitting on the flag of Arjun? Not much. But what he did was very important. Hanuman, in the Mahabharata, he became an invisible leader. And he pushed Bhima to become the visible leader. He inspired Bhima to become the hero in the Mahabharata. So you don't find much Hanuman's name in the Mahabharata written. You'll find Bhima's name everywhere. But wherever Bhima was there, Hanuman was there inspiring Bhima. So every one of us, at some point in our life, will be visible leaders. But at some point in our life, we have to become invisible leaders. If possible, we have to do both the roles simultaneously. So while at some point in some roles we are visible and we are very much in the forefront, but we need to inspire some other people to go ahead and be in the forefront. That's what the whole idea of invisible leadership is. Now, to help you understand the concept of leadership a little better, let me get into some dynamics of how leaders think and how they behave and what they do to become so powerful and such powerful influences to the world. When Lord Ram was going to be coronated as the king of Ayodhya, Dasharath Maharaj called for a meeting of all the most important people of Ayodhya. And in this meeting, Dasharath Maharaj said that I'm getting old. Now I want to step back and I want to appoint Ram as the king of Ayodhya. And he asked all of them, what do you all think about it? He asked all the residents of Ayodhya, the senior most people. Immediately everyone simultaneously they said, Ichamam, Raghuviram, Mahabahum. So they said, we want Ram to be the king, Raghuvir, Mahabahu, And they said, you immediately get down, make Ram king now only. Dasharath felt very bad. He said, what is this? I have been serving you all as a king for so many decades, so many centuries. And the moment I said Ram will be the king, how come you are so enthusiastic to pull me down? So the citizens of Ayodhya, they said, our state is like a cow that has two calves. The cow doesn't know which calf to focus on. It wants to love this calf also, but it wants to love this calf also. The citizens of Ayodhya said, we want to love you also, but we want to love Ram also. But when we think of Ram, we can't think of anybody else as a king. So Dasharath was a little happy to know that. But he wanted to know, what is it in Ram that you feel he should be the best leader? He would be the ideal leader. What did you find in Ram? And the citizens of Ayodhya, they spoke many things about Ram, which makes him the ideal leader. And I'm going to tell you all, the citizens of Ayodhya, they said many things randomly, about the glories of Ram. But I'm going to put it in three categories. There are three things the citizens of Ayodhya specifically mentioned which attracted Ram to them. The first thing the citizens of Ayodhya said is Ram is very talented. This is the first quality that a good leader needs to have, talent. And the citizens of Ayodhya spoke about Ram's talent in detail. They said, Ram's talent is not just theoretical, it is very practical. They said, Ram, he speaks very well. He is a very good orator. But his speech is not just a long lecture, but he also knows how to touch people's hearts. A lot of people know to speak a lot, they have a lot of knowledge, but they don't know how to speak to the audience they are speaking to. They'll speak anything. Like one fellow, he went to an auditorium to give a lecture. And in the auditorium, there was no one. Only one fellow was sitting there. So he said, I have prepared a lot. I have come over here after prepared speech, but only one person is there. Should I give the lecture or no? He asked that fellow. That guy said, see, I am not intelligent. I am a farmer. But I know if I have 100 horses and all the horses run away and only one horse is there, I will feed that horse. This fellow got inspired. He said, yes. And he gave full lecture, 3 hours, solid lecture he gave. And after the full lecture, this fellow asked this guy, how did you like the lecture? He said, I don't know all that. I am a farmer. But I know one thing. If I have only one horse left, I will not give the food of all the 100 horses to this one horse. It's very interesting, right? So basically, it's not only that what knowledge you have, you should also know what the capacity of the fellow to digest the knowledge, right? So some people have so much knowledge, they want to download, Whoever is done, one of them download directly, So Ram is not like that. Ram understands what is the capacity of the person to hear and gives knowledge to that extent. And then the citizens of Ayodhya said, Ram sings so beautifully. But his singing is not just some melody. But when he sings, he encourages us. In his singing, we find hope. In his singing, we find a lot of inspiration. And the citizens of Ayodhya said, Ram knows to use weapons expertly. But Ram's use of weapons is not just the expertise of using weapons, but he also knows when to use and when not to use. And just because somebody has knowledge of weapons doesn't mean you keep using it, isn't it? In America, people all have weapons, Sometimes they feel, what is the use of weapon? Let me go and try using it here and there, randomly. So you should know when to use it also, when not to use it, more importantly. And then the citizens of Ayodhya, they said that Ram, he is expert in administration, very good in administration. But the way he judges, the way he understands cases, understands situations, he is not extremely cruel and he is not overtly compassionate. He knows what is the balance of approach. So like this, the citizens of Ayodhya were glorifying Ram's talent. So everything that Ram represented in terms of his talents, the citizens of Ayodhya were able to see good in it. And then the citizens of Ayodhya, they said, Ram is not just talented, but he also had good attitude. talent helps you reach the bridge of success. But to cross that bridge, you need good attitude. Only talent is not enough. Talent can only help you reach the bridge of success. But good attitude helps you cross the bridge of success. And the citizens of Ayodhya spoke about the attitude of Lord Ram. And they said such amazing things about that which show the attitude of Lord Ram. The citizens of Ayodhya said that Ram is so humble that when he is standing with someone, he begins the conversation first. All of us have this experience, if you're standing in a lift or in a public transport system and somebody's standing next to us, we think 100 times, why should I start a conversation first? Let that guy start conversation first. If you're going in any social setting, we're always so conscious that why should I start speaking first? And we always expect the other person to speak. And that stems out of ego, that I am great, I am something, I have some position or some title or whatever, But Ram is the Prince of Ayodhya, he is the Supreme Lord. But whenever in any situation like this, he begins conversations first. And then the citizens of Ayodhya, they said, Ram, he is so grateful. They said, if anyone does anything little for Ram, he never forgets it. He remembers it forever. And if anyone does anything bad for Ram, Ram forgets it immediately. For us, it is exactly opposite, isn't it? If somebody does something bad for us, we remember forever, rest of our life, And if somebody does something good for us, we forget immediately, And then the citizens of Ayodhya, they said something very amazing. This is one of my favorites. They said that when we are going through a difficult time, Ram comes to our house and he cries more than our family members. And they said, when we go through a joyous situation in our life, Ram comes to our house and he's happier than our family members. Isn't it amazing? The citizens never said he comes and solves our problem. What did they say? They said that he comes and cries with us. Not all problems are meant to be solved. Most problems are meant to be tolerated. Few problems are meant to be neglected. Very few problems actually have solutions. But what people need is not someone who can come and solve their problems. They need someone who can come and understand their problem. That's all the people need actually. Unfortunately, we think good leader means he should solve everybody's problem. And we are so enthusiastic to solve people's problems. Like one guy went to a restaurant and he asked the waiter in the restaurant that, do you have any solution for hiccups? Hiccups, you get hitchki. So waiter said yes. He bent down, picked up a mop and he hit him on his face. Hit him. This fellow said, why did you hit me? See, your hiccup is gone, he said. This fellow said, I didn't have hiccup. My wife sitting in the car outside has hiccup. People are so enthusiastic to solve problems. They don't understand only what the problem is first. Before understanding problem, only they want to solve it. So the citizens of Ayodhya, they're so amazing. Look at this. Look at how they're pointing out. They're saying, Ram, he comes and he cries along with us. He cries more than our family members. They didn't say Ram comes and solves our problem immediately. Because that's not what attracts people. What attracts people is someone who can understand people's problems. Not someone who solves problems. Isn't it? And then the citizens of Ayodhya, they spoke about Ram's attitude from the point of view of his ability to listen to people. So they glorify Ram's attitude. So first they say talent, the first quality of Ram that they saw. The second quality of Ram is good attitude. So talent helps you come to the bridge of success. Good attitude helps you cross the bridge of success. And then the third thing the citizens of Ayodhya said, because of which they want Ram only as a king, is character. They said, so character helps you retain success. A lot of people become successful, but to retain success is even more difficult than becoming successful, isn't it? And somebody can become very rich suddenly, But to be able to retain that richness, it requires good character. If you don't have good character, then money will disappear like that. The citizens of Ayodhya spoke about Ram's character. And they said so many nice things about Ram's character. And one of the things they spoke about is how Ram is transparent. What is inside, that's what is outside. People today, leaders today, are like elephants that have two sets of teeth. One teeth to show the world and one teeth to bite. So that means they are something else in front of others and they're actually something else. But the citizens of Ayodhya, they said, Ram is absolutely transparent. What is outside, that's what is inside. So like this, they are speaking so much about the glories of Lord Ram. And Dasharath said, wow, I didn't know so much about my own son. And that's when he realized that Ram really deserves to be the king of Ayodhya now. One of the most important elements of leadership is the ability of a leader to understand and connect with people. Unfortunately, today, we have leaders who are experts in communicating with others, but they don't understand others. I'm going to tell you all two stories from the Mahabharata. And these are amazing stories. You love the two stories. But more than the stories, I want to focus on what we can learn from these stories from the point of view of leadership and from the point of view of communication. So today is a world of communication, right? We have so many ways of communicating with each other. We have mobile phones, we have emails, and we have messengers, and we have WhatsApp and what's not, so many things we have. But just because we have so many ways of communication, do you think we are actually communicating better? Not at all. In fact, more problems are happening because we have so many ways of communication. In fact, people are getting divorces over WhatsApp messages. Strange, Oh, this person sent this message, it means this and it means that. And divorces happening over WhatsApp. So here are two stories of the Mahabharata that will give you a solid understanding of what communication really means. And from that, we'll understand what really leadership means. During the Mahabharata war, there was a particular point where Arjun took a vow to kill Jayadratha by sunset. So Jayadratha had killed was responsible for the killing of his son Abhimanyu. So because of that, Arjun was so hurt, he decided next day by sunset, I'm going to kill Jayadratha, otherwise I'll end my life. He took a vow like that. And the next day by sunrise, they began fighting. They began the war. And Krishna and Arjun began to chase Jayadratha. The Kauravas, they knew if somehow they protected Jayadratha till sunset, Arjun will die. So without them putting an effort, the most important person in the Pandava army will die. So they decided somehow or the other protect Arjun, protect Jayadratha. And the war began at sunrise, and it was intense that day. And Krishna and Arjun were chasing Jayadratha like anything till late in the afternoon. So late afternoon, Krishna told Arjun, we need to take a break now. And Arjun asked Krishna, why? So, Krishna said, the horses are tired. The horses are exhausted. If we go any further, the horses will die. Imagine if anybody else was in Arjun's place, what they would have said. Let them die. Now, my life is more important than the horses, isn't it? Now, he had already taken a vow, and it was late afternoon, as I said. There were only few hours left, and Jayadratha was still very far away. If 2 or 3 horses die, what will happen? You'll get new horses, isn't it? There is no shortage of horses over there. But Arjun said, okay, we'll take a break. So Arjun created a wall of arrows. And Krishna took the horses into that wall of arrows. And within that wall, Krishna was massaging the horses, feeding the horses grass, giving them water to drink, and really taking good care of them. And after about 1 hour of taking care of the horses, then they began again fighting. I'm going to come back to this story again a little later. I'll go to the next story first. In the next story, in the Mahabharata, during the Mahabharata war, when Dronacharya died, Karna became the king, the commander-in-chief of the Kaurava army. So when Karna became the commander of the Kaurava army, he went to Duryodhana and told him, that I can easily, win this war. I can easily kill Arjun, provided I have a driver like Krishna. So Duryodhana said, where will I get a driver like Krishna now? In the middle of the war, Karna said, nothing doing. If I don't get a driver like Krishna, then I can't do what you want me to do. It's like, small children, if you ask them why you failed, if you ask a child why you failed, the child says, my pen was not good. Some lame reason, So Duryodhana said, where will I get somebody like Krishna now? So Karna said, there is one king in our army, his name is Shalya. If he becomes my driver, I can easily win the war. So Duryodhana, he said, okay, I'll try. He went to Shalya and he told Shalya, can you become Karna's driver tomorrow? Shalya said, I can become anybody else's driver except Karna. So somehow Shalya hated Karna from the core of his heart. So Duryodhana said, please, he begged him, he forced him, he somehow convinced him to become Karna's driver. Shalya said, I'll become Karna's driver on one condition. The condition is that I'll speak anything I want to. Duryodhana said, no problem, speak anything you want, just drive, So Shalya said, fine. Next day he got on the chariot and Karna got on the chariot. And Karna told Shalya, take me to Arjun. So Shalya turns behind and says, it looks like you want to die today. So Karna said, why don't you just shut your mouth and drive, So Shalya said, truth when spoken is very bitter, And Karna said, I don't think your parents have taught you good manners, Shalya said, you're talking about my parents? Do you know who your parents are, And Karna was so upset. He said, everyone in your country is like this only, People usually directly go on to nationality and go to family and go to any other things, right? So Shalya, he got really upset with Karna. He said, I'll tell you a story. This is a war going on, And all arrows are flying in all different directions. And I was like, serious war. It's not like, PlayStation war going on. It's like serious fighting going on. And this Shalya is telling Karna a story in the middle of the fight. So Shalya tells Karna, there was one crow. And this crow was a big show off. And he said this crow, it was showing off to all the birds in the jungle that I know 108 ways of flying. And this crow was showing off so much and, just praising itself so much that all the birds in the jungle got fed up with this guy. Now imagine if somebody keeps speaking about himself all the time. It's too much, right? Irritating. So all the birds in the jungle decided, we'll teach this fellow a lesson. They went and spoke to the swan. And they invited the swan to come and have a competition with this crow. So the swan came. Very graceful bird, right? And this crow was all this show off, doing this side, that side, flying. So the birds, they decided to have a competition with the swan and the crow. And they said, whoever flies the farthest into the ocean wins. The crow said, yes, I can fly 108 ways. So the swan said, I can only know one way to fly, and that is fly straight. The crow said, you do your way of flying, I'll do my way of flying. And they both began to fly across the ocean. And the swan was gliding smoothly, straight across the ocean. And this crow was doing all this way, that way, and random things he was doing. After reaching somewhere midway to the ocean, very far from the land, the crow got tired. And the crow began to fall into the water, He's just not able to flap its wings and fly. And the crow began to shout. He told the swan, please help me, I'm dying. And the swan saw him going inside the water, He asked the crow, it looks like you learned the 109th way of flying, inside water. The crow said, no, I'm dying, please save me. The swan picked up that fellow and put him on his back and got him back to the land. And from that day, that crow stopped speaking. So Shalya tells this story to Karna and tells him, you're like that crow. You speak a lot, but you can't do anything. And Arjuna is like the swan. He doesn't speak much, but he does a lot. Imagine. And then finally, somehow they reach Arjun and Krishna's chariot. And Karna takes out an arrow and he's aiming the arrow at the neck of Arjun. Shalya sees the aim. Shalya immediately understands the aim. He understands that Karna is aiming at the neck of Arjun. Shalya turns to him and tells him, don't aim at the neck, aim at the chest of Arjun. Shalya is an expert warrior. He also knows everything, right? So Karna tells him, no. Once I take a aim, I never change it. Shalya tells him, you fool, you're not Lord Ram to say that. Better change it, otherwise you'll die. And this guy doesn't listen. He shoots. And the arrow is coming straight towards the neck of Arjun. And Krishna is sitting there. He sees the arrow coming. And Krishna immediately understands that the arrow is coming to the neck. And he understands that Arjun can't handle this arrow. And Krishna, he hits the chariot with his feet like this. Very hard he hits. And as soon as he hits the chariot with his feet, the horses in front, all of them fall on their knees simultaneously. They understand immediately what Krishna wants them to do. And all the horses fall on their knees. And when the horses fall on the knees, the whole chariot moves down. And the arrow passes over Arjun's head. And Arjun's life is saved. Shalya turns towards Karna and tells him, I told you. And their fight continues. So now I'm stopping the two stories and let us analyze it from the point of view of leadership and communication. In the first story, Krishna and the horses, they are from two different species, speaking two different languages. But Krishna is able to understand what the horses are trying to say, and the horses are able to understand what Krishna is trying to say. Perfect communication, right? So when the horses get exhausted, Krishna is able to understand. And when Krishna hits the chariot, the horses are able to understand. Split second, they are able to communicate with each other very nicely. On the other hand, Shalya and Karna, same species, speaking the same language. But Karna is not able to understand what Shalya is trying to say. And Shalya is not able to understand what Karna is trying to say. The question now is, what is communication? The understanding is, before we learn to communicate with one another, we have to learn to connect with one another. In schools and colleges today, people are taught communication skills, isn't it? We're taught reading skills, we're taught writing skills, we're taught speaking skills. But how many classes is there in schools and colleges that teach us listening skills? Listen to what the other person is trying to say. Nothing, literally. The most important part of communication is to listen to what the other person is trying to say. Before you communicate with one another, learn to connect with one another. And how do you connect with somebody else? To be able to connect with the other person, you have to learn to understand the language of the needs, interests, and concerns of the other person. Krishna was able to understand the needs, interests, and concerns of the horses. What was their needs, interests, and concerns? They were exhausted. And immediately Krishna understood their needs, interests, and concerns, isn't it? And because Krishna put an effort to understand their needs, interests, and concerns, the horses put an effort to understand his needs, interests, and concerns. On the other hand, Shalya was not able to understand Karna's needs, interests, and concerns because Karna was not wanting to understand Shalya's needs, interests, and concerns. What was Shalya's need? He was a king. What he needed was respect. And Karna was treating him like a driver. So Shalya said, Arey, this guy is treating me like a driver. What is this? I'm not a driver. He's a king. And he voluntarily became a driver. And what was Karna's need? Karna's need was a need for friendship. When he's saying, I need a driver like Krishna, he actually meant, I need a friend like Krishna. And because Karna was not understanding Shalya's need for respect, Shalya didn't understand Karna's need for friendship. And therefore, communication just didn't happen. All our lives, we end up trying to inspire other people. But first, if you just learn to connect with others, a lot of problems in life get solved like that only. Good leaders are those who learn to listen to other people effectively. And by spending time listening to what the other person is trying to say, half your problems get solved. And the more we respect others, the better the relationship gets. Leadership from an external point of view, it seems to be like very complicated and very difficult. But actually, leadership is not complicated at all. It's very simple, provided you are really focusing on other people. The more you focus on yourself, the more complicated leadership gets. The more you focus on others, the more easier and the more flexible leadership gets. I'm going to share with you all some thoughts that will help us understand the connection between the concept of leadership and the concept of relationships. In the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, the mood of leadership and the mood of leadership is all about understanding others better and focusing on others in a better way. As I said, good leaders are those who spend time trying to understand what the other person is trying to say and also spend time looking at good in other people. During the Gurukul time, when Dronacharya was teaching the Kauravas and the Pandavas, at that point in time, Dronacharya once called Duryodhan. He told Duryodhan that I want you to go into the kingdom and find one person who is better than you. So Duryodhan went into the kingdom and met hundreds and thousands of people. And after meeting so many people, Duryodhan came back and he said, I'm sorry, I couldn't even find one person better than me. Because every person I saw had one defect which I didn't have. So Duryodhan had a whole list of names of people and defects that they had. Dronacharya was amazed. This guy couldn't even find one person who had some good quality in them. He only found a whole list of defects in people. Dronacharya then went and called Yudhishthir Maharaj. And he told Yudhishthir, I want you to go into the kingdom and find one person who is worse than you. Yudhishthir went, met thousands of people and he came back and said, I'm sorry, I couldn't even find one person worse than me because every person I saw had one good quality which I didn't have. And he had a whole list of names of people and one good quality he saw in each of them. Imagine, So Dronacharya called both of them together. And he told Duryodhan, the one person who is better than you is Yudhishthir. And he told Yudhishthir, the one person who is worse than you is Duryodhan. So there's a very interesting principle of leadership which is called the lens principle. Lens principle says, who you are determines what you see in others. Who you are determines what you see in others. Very often, when we look at other people as very, very critical people, most often we only are the critical people. When we look at others as very kind people, maybe you're the one who is kind. So typically human beings end up seeing in others what exists in themselves. So as potential leaders, each one of us have to understand that the more we look for faults in others, those faults actually exist in ourselves. And the more we look for good in others, those good actually exist in ourselves. So leadership is a training to start looking for good in others. And the more we become trained to look for good in others, you will find a lot of it. And the more you are expert in looking at faults in others, you will find a lot of it. There's a very interesting formula of which leaders can follow in their lives. It's called the FNC formula. F stands for focus on the good. Every one of us have good in us and also bad in us, isn't it? There was a gold miner, a very successful gold miner in America, who was interviewed by a reporter. This reporter asked him, what is the secret of his success? And this man said something fantastic. You know what he said? He said, when I dig for gold, I don't look for dirt. If you go to a gold mine, there are kilos and kilos of dirt. And in that 1 gram of gold you'll find. So what he said? When I dig for gold, I don't look for dirt. Because if he looks for dirt, he'll find lots. Every human being is like a gold mine. There are kilos and kilos of dirt in us. But there's 1 gram of gold. So we have to decide what we want to focus on. If you want to focus on the dirt, you'll find plenty. But if you want to focus on the gold-like qualities in a person, you will actually find that in sufficient quantity. There's N. So F stands for focus on the good. N stands for neglect the bad. Lot of relationships can be saved if we simply understand this one simple fact that people are not difficult, they're just different. Each one of us is unique. We all have idiosyncrasies. We all have some problem or the other, some defect or the other. But if you keep focusing on people's defects, you will end up alone. You will literally end up alone because everyone has defects, including you. But if you focus on the good in others, there is so much there. So F stands for focus on the good, N stands for neglect the bad, and C stands for cultivate appreciation. We have to learn to cultivate appreciation towards other people. And that's not easy. Cultivating appreciation is not easy. There was a young boy who was standing in a line in a zoo. So in this zoo, there was a booth where they were painting kids' faces. They were painting different animal faces on the children's. So there was this boy standing in the line, and one boy who was behind him, he just passed a comment. He told this boy, "Why do you have to get your face painted? Your face is already painted. You look like a panther," he told him. Pink panther. This boy's face was filled with freckles, This boy felt so bad. He ran to his grandmother crying. And he was so sad. The grandmother, when she understood the problem, she told this boy, "Don't you know the most beautiful thing in God's creation is freckles?" This boy, when he heard this comment from the grandmother, he became very happy. And he said, "No, there's something more beautiful than freckles." And grandmother asked, "What?" He said, "Wrinkles." Because the grandmother's face was filled with wrinkles. Now, between freckles and wrinkles, which is more beautiful? Neither. But because the grandmother saw good in him, he saw good in her. That's what cultivating appreciation is about. When leaders learn to see good in others, they see good in us. When leaders learn to see faults in others, others see faults in us. It's a cycle, as simple as that. And when the more we focus on this beautiful FNC formula, focus on the good, neglect the bad, and cultivate appreciation, life becomes more beautiful and people begin to love you more. I'll end with one amazing story from the Mahabharata. And this is a story that you would have never heard before. And I love this story. This is a story of a king named Indradumna. So this king, he was invited to the heavens to fight for the gods. And this king spent a lot of time fighting for the gods against some demons. And after his whole, fighting was over and he did his service, he wanted to return back to his kingdom. So he told the gods that I have done my service, please let me go back. The gods said, fine, please go back. So King Indradumna came back to the earth planet. When he came to the earth, he got shocked because he saw hundreds of years had passed on the earth while he was in the heaven. His family was gone, his kingdom was gone, everything was changed, so many centuries had passed below. So the king Indradumna was wondering, what is this? Where do I live? His palace doesn't exist anymore, his family doesn't exist anymore, he doesn't have any wealth anymore. So then Indradumna said, I think I should better go back to the heaven only. So when he wanted to go back to the heaven, the people in the heaven told him, you can't come like this. You don't have enough pious credits to come back to heaven now. So now Indradumna was lost. He can't go back to the earth also. He can't go back to the heaven also. So he went and asked the people in the heaven, at least give me some option. So the people in the heaven told him something very interesting. They told him, you can come back to the heaven provided you find one person on the earth who remembers you. You just find one person on the earth who remembers you and remember some kindness that you have done, something the good that you have done for them. And if even one person on the earth remembers you, you can come back. We'll give you entry. Now King Indradumna came down and he started talking to everybody. Do you remember me? I'm King Indradumna. Nobody remembered him. Obviously, hundreds of years, centuries have passed literally. So then eventually he came to know there's one sage whose name is Markandeya Rishi, who is the oldest person on earth. He said, let me go and ask him, maybe he will remember me, He went to Markandeya Rishi and said, do you remember me? I'm King Indradumna. Markandeya Rishi said, I don't remember you, but there is someone older than me. We'll go to him, And Markandeya Rishi took him to an owl. This owl was like a really ancient owl, So this owl looked at Indradumna with his big eyes and he said, sorry, I don't remember you. But there's a bird who's older than me. There's a crane, We'll go to him. So Markandeya Rishi and this owl went with Indradumna to the crane. And this crane was standing in one lake. And he looked at Indradumna and said, I don't remember you, but there's a tortoise who's older than me. Surely he will remember you, And they all went to this tortoise. And this Indradumna told this tortoise, do you remember me? I'm King Indradumna. The tortoise said, of course we remember you. Every day we sing about you in this lake. The Indradumna was amazed. He said, how do you remember me? And this tortoise told a story. He said, when this king, Indradumna, was a king, he gave many cows in charity. And he gave thousands and thousands of cows in charity. And before giving those cows in charity, he kept all those cows in one field. Massive field. And because the cows were standing on that field for a long period of time, and they were stamping on that ground, the ground sunk a little bit. And eventually after that, the cows were given away.